Alexander Devante.
22-year-old killer would not survive prison. Longo Rico killer would not survive prison. Ex-con from South Carolina explains. This guy right here, I'm gonna show you a picture. Killed a 22-year-old white woman, just like the one in North Carolina killed that Ukraine girl and out in prison. But this time he might not survive, because one, he is known for doing shit like this. I surprised. It's not shocking. Hate crimes on white is getting worse and worse. It's not shocking. But like the roles in reverse, every news station will play this video. Why? Because they know it sells. Hate on white crime sells, white on black crime sells, and black on white crime sells, but not as much as white on black crime sells. So let's get into the video, shall we?
Dickie will have it harder than most in prison. In fact, it will be a living hell on earth. Why am I someone who knows what they're talking about? Because I just finished serving 10 years in the exact same South Carolina state prison that Dickie will soon be going to. I know the inmates. I know what the gangs are. I know who they are. I know how they think. I know how they feel. I know exactly what his fate will be and what the other inmates are going to think about him and what he did. And if you don't know who she is or who the killer is, you're not familiar with this case, I'll play you one 1-minute video clip that will tell you everything you need to know. After that, we'll dive right into why Alexander Dickey is going to hate the rest of his life on this earth, coming from an expert, you may say, of how things go and how things will go for him inside exactly the state of South Carolina prisons for him. Let's get started.
When I tell you this story, think about your kids. Think about your child coming home from a night out with their friends, laying down, going to sleep, feeling somebody come in the room and wake them, and drag her out of bed, naked, forced on her knees, with her hands over her head, begging for her life. Bang! Dead. Gone. Why? Because Alexander Devante Dickey, who was arrested 39 times, 25 felonies, was on the street. And you will not forget her. I promise you. You will be sick and tired of my face. My daughter laid on the floor for 7 hours before somebody in that house recognized that something was wrong. And that career criminal went on a spending spree with her debit card. Absolutely pathetic that I'm here today.
Absolutely heartbreaking testimony from the father of Logan Federico, but let's get started now that you're caught up. Let's start with this. I do a whole series where I analyze how well-known criminals' prison experiences will go, how it'll be, problems, people, everything in between that may or may not occur. You got to understand there are a lot of times that, unfortunately, this isn't what you want to hear. This isn't what you asked Santa for Christmas for. Nothing will happen to them out of the ordinary. That doesn't mean during their 20, 30, 40, 50 years in prison that nothing will ever happen to them. I mean, they could sneeze on someone and not say, excuse me, sir, and they'd just beat the crap out of them. I mean, it could happen, but it's not exactly what you are looking for, right? We gotta hit some bullet points, some main factors when you're analyzing how anyone's likely typical prison experience will go, especially in my home prison, the actual prison I spent a decade in. And I went there when I was 20. So I basically spent a third of my life in this place. I know exactly how it goes. Probably better than anyone else on the internet. Okay? Here's something he doesn't have to worry about. I'm going to give you the bad news first, and I'm going to progressively move into better news that I think you'd be happier to hear. So, don't give up on me yet. Don't get too angry, but here's the truth. Will Alexander, Devontae, Xavier, Dickie have issues from other inmates, other dangerous, violent inmates, solely because of the fact of what his charges are and who his victim was. In other words, are other inmates who have the power to inflict damage upon him going to make it their mission and seek him out and go out of their way to harm him and violently attack him because he murdered an adult 22-year-old woman who was absolutely innocent in cold blood. For what purpose? To take her credit cards and go on a shopping spree. Will inmates tolerate that? Yes, they will. They will. And I know a lot of you out there, I know you've seen movies. I know Netflix just came out with that new TV show. I know you watched Prison Break. I know you've seen a couple prison movies. Inmates don't like when other inmates harm women. Well, good Lord, I never got the bulletin board notice that inmates became virtuous, moral, superior, self-righteous heroes who are just engorged with chivalry to where they just, they cannot allow you to physically harm a woman. Oh my gosh. Didn't get that memo. As I always say, 80% of inmates in prison, if that's not what they're in there for, they still at least have a history of physically abusing their girlfriend, baby mama, my baby mom, my baby mama, had to slap her a few times. She started turning up on me. She got mad I was selling weed out of the house while Junior was trying to get dressed and go to school. So I had to slap her up a few times. Yeah, hey, call it what you want. That's what it is. That's what it is. Plenty of inmates in there for killing grown women. Mind you, Alec Murdaugh is in South Carolina, the same South Carolina prison system, for murdering his wife. That's a woman. That's an adult woman. And murdering his young 20-year-old son. Nobody's done anything to it. No one's laid a hand on his hair. No one's even sneezed in his direction. You know why? They don't care. The only thing they might care about is if you do sexually abusive actions and get charged for those crimes towards an actual minor or child. And even then, I know movies are fun. Movies are great. They're very entertaining. We love movies, and those good old prison movies. Oh gosh, oh yeah, they're so good. They're so entertaining. Can I tell you about the real world? Nobody wants to mess up with. Everyone sees a pedophile and says, "Man, I hope somebody messes him up." But nobody wants to actually be the one who messes him up. You know why? Because he's going to snitch. He has nothing to lose. He's going to snitch. That's his greatest strength. He's going to snitch on you, the one who put your hands on him. You're going to lose everything. That cell phone you paid $5,000 for, gone. The $230 worth of canteen and drugs and K2 and spice and tobacco that you are selling and you fronted and gave to people on credit, and you are expecting your payment next Wednesday, you'll never get it. Gone. Another loss. All the people who you've made friends with, you've established yourself in this cell block, you've had alliances, you've made connections, you've made friends, they're all gone. You'll never see them again. Because you're going to get in trouble, go to solitary, and they'll send you somewhere else. All gone. Nobody wants to be the one who actually harms a pedophile. And that's the worst of the worst. That is something that is actually unanimously frowned upon by inmates. But even then, you have a hard time finding people who will take action against them. So some guy killed, and I don't mean to make light of the situation. I'm speaking from the mindset of the inmates. Please understand. Okay, a guy shot a technically adult woman. Well, I guess there's no need for me to do anything about that. That's how they think. Nobody's going to do anything. Nobody will ever approach him and try to enact a violent altercation and inflict damage upon him, whether by fists or metal sharpened shank, because he murdered an innocent 22-year-old adult woman. That's just a fact. There's your bad news. That's your bad news. But trust me, I have good news, and this will make you feel, hopefully, a bit better. My thing is, I'm just going to tell you the truth. No one's going to be like, oh my gosh, I heard what you did to that little beautiful young lady. I'm going to beat your ass. Nope, won't happen. They don't care. They probably did something very similar to that. I'll tell you why his life will be hell. This hopefully will give you some comfort, but this all stems from the truth and experience in the exact location that he is soon to go to. So I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to tell you, oh yeah, inmates, they won't tolerate you murdering a grown woman. No. They may rob a bank, but they'll never harm a woman. That's just bullcrap. That's just BS. Here's why, actually, his life is going to be a living nightmare. Look here in his criminal history. He's got, 39 charges, 25 felonies, just in the last 10 years. Mind you, I spent 10 years for one charge in prison. Not to take away from the severity of what I did, I'm just saying. I did one crime and got 10 years. During these same 10 years, he did 39 crimes, 25 of them being felonies. I can't imagine having 25 felonies. And these include drug charges, robbery, burglary, and fraud. These are all serious things. Why is he still on the streets? That's the main concern, and that's the big deal being brought up by the father of Logan Frederico, rightfully so. But we can learn something about this man from not only his charges, but his progression of mugshots. I'll show you here. This is within 10 years. This is the most age progression, the most drastic age progression I've seen over a 10-year period ever. You see these and these, he looks younger in the first ones. Look at the last one. He's almost going bald. He looks like George Jefferson almost. Let's take a look at the last two mugshots, the most recent and the one right before that. The one right before that was just a few months ago. I'm talking May of 2025. And now we're seeing this. Something happened between this mugshot and this mugshot. He has aged 7 years in between these mugshots, and you know what it is? Homelessness, drug use. He's robbing people. He's literally dragging random women out of their bed in the middle of the night, executing them for what? Thank God, I will say, some small beacon of light. Thank God he did not abuse her sexually. Given the fact that she is a young 22-year-old, very beautiful young lady. And as the father says, he dragged her out of the bed and she was naked. Thank goodness he did not have the mindset to abuse her, not giving him credit, not giving him any exoneration whatsoever for what he did. I'm just saying, on her behalf and her family's behalf, thank God he did not do that, because I think let's be real, the first thing that comes to mind, if I hear someone start a sentence with, my young, beautiful, blonde, 22-year-old, college-aged daughter was dragged out of bed and she was butt naked and forced onto her knees. Maybe it's just me. Please let me know how you feel. I would have bet my bottom dollar. I fully expected the next sentence to go into depth about how she was then taken advantage of. And I am so glad. I am so sad that her life was taken. That is absolutely horrible. But I hope you hear where I'm coming from, and I hope you feel where my heart is when I say I am so glad that apparently didn't take place, because I have not heard that reported or repeated by law enforcement or the father. I am so glad, and I'm sure the father is glad as you can be when you're, at the end of the day, I mean, how glad can you be? I mean, yeah, this didn't happen, but my daughter is still gone. I understand. I hope you understand what I'm saying. We can learn from the charges previously: robbery, fraud, burglary. Look at these mugshots here, the progression. He clearly went downhill in the last few months, drastically. And then what he became willing, as this drastic decline is happening, he became much more willing to take a life. Not because, hey, I'm a serial killer and I want to do it for, I'm not Brian Koberger or Ted Bundy. I just want to kill to feel what it feels like to kill. I just want to kill and I want to abuse you in that way. I'm like driven by my desires, my sick desire. No. He just needed a couple credit cards. You could have put a gun to her head and said, where's your freaking purse? She would have gave it to you. You could have took it and ran off. Go on your little shopping spree then. He murdered her and then turned her room upside down to find those cards. He did this. He killed someone to get their credit cards and spend what, $600-700? How much? What do you think the credit limit on this 22-year-old college student was? Were you planning to fund? Were you going to buy that big mansion in Malibu and get that new Mercedes AMG or that new Ferrari? I mean, what? Dude, she might have had a $5,000 credit limit. Dude, but he would kill for anything. This is why this is important and relevant within his prison experience. He's a bum. He's a bum. I'll tell you now. He's a bum. He's a robber. He's a credit fraudster. He got so desperate, he will kill you to swipe your $3,000 limit, at best, credit card. You know what that tells me? He has no friends. He has no family. This guy is from Colombia. This is the hood. If he was selling drugs, if he was getting money, if he was hustling on the streets, if he was a part of a gang, if he was well connected, he would never have to stoop so low, and you would never kill so. Basically, you're killing someone for such a low payoff. I'm going to kill you so I can get a credit card that maybe at best I can max out at $3,000, but probably won't be able to. Probably like $900 before it gets flagged, right? That shows you the state this guy was in. He had no friends, no family, no financial support. He had no hustles, no real job, no nothing. And that is proven by the progression of this photo to his very next photo. He looks like he aged 11 years. He went downhill. He became homeless. He's a drug addict. He will literally kill you for just enough money to get his next hit. How does this translate over to prison? Very easy. He won't be a shot caller. He won't be a hitman. He won't be a badass. He won't be a gang boss. He will fall at the bottom of the hierarchy. And yes, I could make a 2-hour video on prison hierarchies. He will be at the bottom. And what at the bottom? You're the customer. You are the guy buying K2. If you don't know what K2 is, it's spice. If you don't know what spice is, it's synthetic weed. If you don't know what synthetic weed is, brother, get on Google and type it in. Any of these three things. It's basically potpourri doused with Raid. And people smoke it. The reason it's so prevalent in prison is because they do conduct random drug tests. Nobody wants to fail for weed. You'll get more time added on to your sentence. So they opt for spice. Spice is just basically potpourri, chopped up lettuce with bug spray. Drenched in bug spray, and it gives you a high. But the main thing is it won't show up on a drug test. And so you have these people, and it's highly addictive. It's highly addictive. Understand that. These people will beg and cry to their mama. Mama, I've seen people fake being kidnapped and held hostage by gang members. They tie them up to a chair and gag them and blindfold them and then record them and say, Mom, they take their little gag out and they're like, Mom, please, $50. I owe the Bloods $50. If you don't send it, they're going to kill me now. If you call the prison and snitch, then they'll kill me before they ever get here. And so, their mothers are like, oh my Lord, my baby Jaquante, oh Lord. Here's $50. I've seen people do it. They're heartless. They'll do it to their own mother. They will break their mother's heart for $50 so that they can buy bug spray drenched potpourri. So that they can do this. Flop on the floor. This is what happens. This is what they do. They do this. This is to escape their reality. And because of this, as you can imagine, they are not very well respected in prison. They are at the bottom